God's math is different from man's math. This is not economics. This is kingdomnomics. It's not what we deserve. It's what we need. In kingdomnomics, God dispenses gifts, not wages. In kingdomnomics, value is not determined by what you deserve, but by how much you are given. In kingdomnomics, heart counts more than the bottom line.
Welcome to the Parable Podcast. Thanks for joining Family Life on-air host Randy Snavely as he digs into the story lessons taught by the world's greatest teacher, Jesus. In this episode, it's part 1 of That Doesn't Seem Fair, taken from chapter 20 of the Gospel of Matthew.
Aeneas' eyes snapped open. He could hear the desert winds relentlessly blowing the trees outside and whistling through the cracks of his house. Years of working as a day laborer in the vineyards taught him what the winds meant. It was time for simmering temperatures and for grapes to be harvested. Heavy rains would come after the winds, and the grapes would be lost unless they were harvested quickly. And that was good news. It meant there would be work. It meant bread for the family, and even meat. The endless cycle of poverty would be broken for a spell. He needed to get to the marketplace early so he would be hired. Aeneas dressed quickly. The red sun was just coming over the horizon as Aeneas was joined by several other men hoping for work. One of the vineyard owners was obviously feeling the urgency of the harvest as he was already there. Negotiations were underway for the day's wage. By 6 a.m., Aeneas was in the fields agreeing to work a 12-hour shift for a denarius. The early hours were the best hours to work because of the cooler temperatures, but the winds felt like they were blowing off scorching fires, and it got very hot early. Aeneas gathered grapes as quickly as he could. Years of picking made him one of the faster pickers, but even he realized all the grapes would not be picked by sundown. By 9 o'clock, the owner noticed the situation as well, and he headed back to the marketplace to hire more workers. Aeneas speculated what they would be paid for working less than a full day. Still, it was good to have the help. They needed every hand to finish on time. But the addition of the 9 o'clock crew still was not enough. The shadows were sprinting across the dial. Aeneas glanced at the owner, whose expression betrayed his concern. He wasn't surprised when the owner returned to the marketplace at noon to hire more workers, and even more were hired at 3 o'clock. As the afternoon sun began to cast longer and longer shadows through the rows of still unharvested vines, they knew they could not pick them all in time. Yet they were still surprised when the owner returned to the marketplace at 5 o'clock to see if he could hire still more men. There would be little more than an hour for them to work. As each crew was hired, Aeneas calculated what each would earn for their portion of labor. He even mused over the possibility of making more than the owner had agreed. He could almost feel the coins in his hands. Finally, the end of the day came and the workers lined up for their pay. He was amazed when the 5 o'clock workers were called to be paid first. All eyes were fixed on the landowner as he handed out the wages. Unbelieving shock swept over the workers as the owner paid each a full denarius. How could this be? It meant one of two things. Either the others would be paid more, or no, that could never happen. Aeneas thought the best of the owner and was already multiplying what he could earn for a full 12 hours of labor. 12 denarii! But fear gripped him as the 3 o'clock workers were also given a denarius. His anxiety mounted as the workers hired at noon received the same. Then he was filled with white-hot anger, as the 9 o'clock workers were given no more than the others. When the owner placed a single denarius in his hand, Aeneas could take it no longer. "This is not fair," he exploded. "I've been working here all day. Is there no justice, no reward for hard work? What's the use of working 12 hours if 1 hour's work in the cool of the evening earns the same amount?" He threw the coin at the owner's feet. "Keep your dirty denarius." The owner looked at the other guys hired in the first hour. He saw the disappointment mixed with anger on their faces. He picked up the denarius and looked at Aeneas. "Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Did not you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the man who was hired the last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous?" You are listening to part 1 of Family Life's Parable podcast, That Doesn't Seem Fair. It's taken from Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 15. So here's the question. Would you have gotten mad like one of the 12-hour workers did? Would you have blown your stack like Aeneas did? To our American way of thinking, it doesn't seem fair. It goes against the idea of equal pay for equal work. I shudder to think what would have happened if a grape-picking union existed in ancient Israel. Listen to what 4 Bible scholars from 4 different centuries have said about this parable. From the 1800s, this parable is harder to interpret than any other which our Savior uttered. From the 16th century, we are confronted here with the most puzzling of all the parables. From the 20th century, this parable irritates the modern listener because it goes against sound human logic. And from 2001, this parable, more than any other, is likely to offend the modern reader's sense of equity. Well, I have news for you. God's math is different from man's math. This is not economics. This is kingdomnomics. It's not what we deserve. It's what we need. In kingdomnomics, God dispenses gifts, not wages. In kingdomnomics, value is not determined by what you deserve, but by how much you are given. In kingdomnomics, heart counts more than the bottom line. In kingdomnomics, one is worth everything. And in kingdomnomics, giving up everything is the way to win it all. For Matthew chapter 20, beginning at verse 1, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. Now when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the 3rd hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you.' So they went. Again he went out about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing idle, and said to them, 'Why have you been standing here idle all day?' They said to him, 'Because no one hired us.' He said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you will receive.' So when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, 'Call the laborers, and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first.' And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more, And they likewise received each a denarius. And when they had received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, These last men have worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us who have borne the burden and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go your way. I wish to give to this last man the same as to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is your eye evil because I am good?
This has been the Parable Podcast with Randy Snavely. Click the subscribe button so you'll know when new episodes are released. And be sure to check out Family Life's other original podcasts, including If That Makes Sense, Business by the Book, and Rise Up with Steve, Therese, and Tim. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Your partnership makes podcasts like this possible. Find out more at familylife.org.